This is Paul Hawksbee and Andy Jacobs with you through until 4 here on talkSPORT, where this afternoon we're once again coming to you live from our living rooms for another week of lockdown shows.
Coming up between now and 4, Motti on what Revisiting the Big Match tells us about football back in the 80s and 70s, or even the 70s and 80s. West Ham support. The problem is, Paul sent me the intro through, but it's come through on the tiniest font possible. You know what my eyes are like, so I'm having a real problem here, but never mind. West Ham supporting comedian John Maloney takes us through his virtual gig at the weekend, and Arsenal Football Club TV's Robbie Lyle previews his powerful new documentary on ITV this evening.
We'll take your calls, emails, texts and tweets. We'll bring you another thrilling episode of Steve Bruce's Murder Mystery Striker. And on this day in sporting history, yesterday, we salute some record-breaking England cricketers.
Good, there's all this, plus a man who ran a marathon around his garden, another one who's turned his garden into a football pitch, and Mike Ward gives us his pick of the night's TV.
Yeah. Now, it is.
What a start.
It is 6 minutes past 1. Good afternoon, everyone. Good afternoon, Andy. And I must just say that you said the other day that Declan, our technical guru, said you sounded very, very deep. Now, I don't know if there's some lag in the signal, because I'm listening to you today, and you're speaking slowly, and you're very... I don't know if the listeners are hearing it like that, but I'm hearing you in a bit of a Barry White role, and I'm quite liking it. I think it could be the future.
I quite like it either, yeah. Well, I'll stick to it.
You don't need to do that. Just keep doing as you're doing.
Just keep speaking the normal way. Okay, well, that's good. So, over the weekend, I don't know about you, Paul, but I try to... It's impossible in these times, but I've tried to retain a sense of normality in my life. So, for example, Saturday night, 10:30, I lined up I had my own Andy's Match of the Day. I pre-recorded some highlights. I saved a 0-0 against Southampton in 1994 as a kind of last match on my Match of the Day. But then after that, I had the games lined up. But I was thinking last night, actually, this is great. It's great now. We're going to talk to Motti about all this old football and everything. But what are we going to be doing by week 12? We're going to run out of games to show. They'll be showing the Amateur Cup final in the 50s. I'm absolutely convinced of it.
I think there's enough. I think there's enough. I mean, I've watched quite a lot of old football this weekend. I watched a couple of the old Big Match revisiteds. We'll save this for our chat with Motti, because there was an interesting piece by Alan Nixon in The Sun yesterday. He said, we get a bit misty-eyed about football in the 80s, but there's a lot we never, ever will want to go back to, and that's what we'll be discussing with Motti a little bit later on. But I must admit, I've been quite enjoying it. I'll tell you what was quite pathetic, though. One game was Ipswich versus Spurs. It was the first game of the season when Spurs actually went down in the 70s. And we went 1-0 up, and I started to get annoyed at the quality of Willie Young's... I was getting annoyed from 1970s. It was so typical Spurs, 1-0 up, and then they managed to lose 3-1. I just thought, that's my evening. That's my evening ruin, that is, going back to 1970s. Oh, Willie Young, where were you? Terrible.
Exactly. I'll tell you what I did as well. I was watching a game from, I think it was 1981, and Peter Rhodes Brown was playing for Chelsea. And for some reason, for all these years, I thought that Peter Rhodes Brown, after he retired, went into the church and rose through the ranks of the church and became a bishop. And so I started to look at... I thought he had, and I looked it up.
What an imagination you've got.
He hadn't at all. I had to get on to Rick Glanville, the Chelsea club historian, and say, did Peter Rhodes Brown become the Bishop of Oxford? No, he's a scout at Oxford United. So there you go. I don't know why.
Maybe that's a strand. Where are they now, but not what they really did? Maybe, because, some bloke might be a pipe fitter, and you might think he went off. I mean, you're not thinking of Gavin Peacock, are you?
No, Gavin, no.
Okay.
Yeah, no, I know Gavin did that, but I was also thinking, I don't know about you, if you're still watching the English game. I'm really enjoying it. I think it's a tremendous programme on Netflix. If you haven't seen it, people seem to be really enjoying it. And I've discovered that, we were talking last night, which club are you a fan of in the English game? For example, are you a fan of the Old Etonians, the establishment? Are you a fan of Darwin? I'm a fan of Blackburn, because they're kind of nouveau riche team that try and buy everybody up. So I thought, that sounds quite familiar, I'll go with them. So me and the wife are rooting for Blackburn.
You're a Blackburn. I'm going to go Darwin.
How are you?
I'm going to stick with the...
They like Spurs.
Yeah, that's right. So I think I might go with them. And I'm going to say, this voice, Andy, of yours, I don't know during the travel whether you'll be dialing back in, but it does sound like you're possessed by the devil. I'm sure you're not. It's like you've...
I think I am.
It does. Even people who are liking it at the moment, Bob in Arbroath said he is sounding very much like Barry White. We can understand what you're saying. You're just an octave lower. It's just right down here. It's a really weird experience. It's like you're Barney from Napalm Death.
I'm never going to give you up, that's for sure. And,
we'll have to get you to sing do the intro to a Barry White song in a few months, unless we can sort this line out. But it is a joy. Keep going.
And there's been some complaints about the fact there's no references to coronavirus in the Archers, because under the old editor, apparently actors would have come in and recorded inserts, like somebody would have said, old Walter Gabriel, he seems to have got the COVID-19, but he's all right now, that sort of thing. But there's nothing at all. So it's not gone down at all well. So I think they're going to have to sort that out. What else have we got? I've got lots of stuff. Hold on, here we go.
Sure you have.
Yeah, Well, shall I sort of speak higher and then maybe I'll just sound normal?
That sounds weird.
Is that worse, is it?
Yeah.
You've got time on your hands when you sit down to listen to Bob Dylan's new 17-minute epic poem. I don't know if you've heard it. It's amazing, actually, set to music, but it is long. It's the sort of thing, and normally you'd go, I haven't got time to listen to this. It's ridiculous. Yeah. But now you have got time, so I recommend it.
Have you had a haircut yet, Andy? Your wife is a hairdresser, of course. You're in a good position because it's a craze that's sweeping the football nation. A lot of top players around Europe are shaving their heads for want of anything better to do. Anthony Martial, didn't you see the pictures today? That really suits him. He shaved his head. He looks $1 million. Eden Hazard, not so much. I see. Okay. It's not really worked for Eden. Again, Ander Herrera, I'm not sure it works great for him. But Anthony Martial, he's going to get modelling work out of this. He looks sensational. I just wonder at what point in proceedings, because I've got very straight, sort of sticky up hair. So if I was to let, say, my son or my missus loose on my barnet with the clippers, I'd look like, remember the old Dick Emery character? I've done it wrong again, Dad. The one who's just the kind of straight, sticky up skinhead. That's what I'll end up with. So
great reference.
After about one for the teenagers. After about 12 weeks, I may have to go for it because it'd be down my back like a mane.
Now, I was thinking of you, Paul, on Saturday night. I was watching a Spurs game. I can't remember what game it was. And, actually, it was the 2-2. It was Chelsea-Spurs 2-2. Yeah. Schiller got the winner, I think. Bjarne Goldbeck got the equaliser. His finest moment in a Chelsea shirt. Yeah. Unstoppable 30-yard drive. You may remember. You would have been there.
Oh,
but Stefan Everson scored on the stretch, as you always used to say. He was on the stretch. He was outside of his left foot, stretched it home. A marvellous goal.
Good old Stretch Everson. That was a Norwegian doll you could buy. You could just pull his legs out. It was fantastic. He was always getting a little injury in that way. I don't know why he was so injury prone. But okay, well, Andy, I don't know if our technical bods, excuse me, are going to get to grips with this because you sound amazing. This voice is quite amazing. I'll tell you sound like, and I don't know if it's homage to the fact he's on the show later on. You sound like Robbie Lyle. You basically sounds like you're doing an impression of Robbie. So we are going to chat to Robbie. He's got a fantastic documentary on tonight. We'll be chatting to him. Sam Matterface joins us first, though. He has turned quiz show host on talkSPORT. We'll tell you more about that because there's more of those to come. Also, there's a couple of big stories around the world of football. This idea of a Premier League isolation hotel and games being played behind closed doors. All feels a bit sci-fi, but we'll get Sam's thoughts on that. Newcastle could be moving closer to a buyout, it seems, probably closer than ever before. We'll get his thoughts on that. Talk a bit of cricket with John Etheridge. All the cricket journalists had a Zoom conversation with the England skipper earlier on, Joe Root, so we'll see how that went. And we'll bring you an On This Day in Sporting History yesterday. Comedian John Maloney's going to be joining us. Always good to chat to John. What's it like as a comedian? Just sort of telling gags into the ether. He did a gig for the Stand Comedy Club up in Scotland the other day. Frankie Boyle, a lot of other top names did it. So we'll find out what it's like as a comedian working without an audience. As we said, Robbie joins us. We'll talk to a man who ran a marathon in his garden and lots more besides. That's all to come. But before we do that, we're bringing you a theme every day. Our old mate Dave Kidd from The Sun said, these old bits of music take us to a happier place back in